The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
What time is it?
Ladies and gentlemen, the Undisputed Era has arrived.
You have the 25 days of Christmas. Impact's going to have the 25 days of releases.
I send it you to deletion! Yeah!
It's hashtag Alpha versus Omega.
Let's just say hashtag aroused.
No, you're going to step in that ring, and you're going to be looking at me eye to eye, and you're going to realize you ain't got a chance.
Thank God we don't have to talk about it anymore, because she got that cancer out of there.
Sean stole my answer. I'm just glad we don't have to talk about this anymore.
And that's not an insult, that is just a fact of life.
I came back for one thing, is to go to WrestleMania. I mean, I know what I can do. Punch your ticket. What everyone wants to do, what everyone lives for, is going to WrestleMania. Then you take it up a notch. I've been here 12 years. I want a main event at WrestleMania. I want to walk in the door as the champ and walk out as the fireworks are going off. It's my show. That's what I want. And I knew if I came back, I had to make a difference. And I was a little bit caught off guard. Shane McMahon put me in a match. I was in Tahiti, sipping Bay Breezes. Wow. And I go, 2 workouts a day, let's make it 3. And I came back, and I talked to you a few minutes ago, and I said, I have to punch my own ticket. I have to do what I do best. I know what I'm here to do. It's to be the best. I went one notch of proving it tonight. I think we got about big pay-per-view match. Take the title, walk into WrestleMania, and then walk out with those fireworks. That's the way I do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, wrestling to the mat.
And your hosts, Gary Vaughan, Sean Garmer, and Paul Leazar.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Wrestling to the Max. This is episode 286, part 2. And of course, we are brought to you by W2Mnet.com. I am, of course, your host, Gary Vaughan. Along with me is Sean Garmer.
What's up, everybody?
And Paul Leazar.
Heyo.
And guys, we have a show ahead of us that's going to be a lot of fun. We've got some interesting quick hits with some people signing contracts to promotions, and we're also talking a little bit of a Hall of Fame rumors for the WB, and really a conspicuous one at that, and some other big news for Impact Wrestling. So we'll be getting into those topics, plus we're covering Impact Wrestling's TV taping this week, and we're crowning a Superstar of the Week. I'm really excited about all that stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a great episode. But before we jump into all that, guys, we've got to take a step back and face reality. And reality is that sometimes our world is really, really sad. And as most people listening right now know, you've heard it all over the news. You've heard it probably on many other podcasts, everywhere else, but we're going to do it too. We're going to mention the Florida shooting. And of course, this is sadly a regular occurrence in the United States now, and that's not a very nice thing to say, nor is it a really a badge of honor that none of us want to take here in the United States. If you're listening in the UK or anywhere else around in the world, just know the Americans are not happy about this stuff, but we deal with it, and it's part of our world here. And I mean, sadly, we have 17 people gone now because of someone taking things into their own hands out of whatever reasons that are demented. But I know this cuts close to home for Sean, for sure, living in Florida, living not too far away from where this actually took place. And Sean, I mean, I know you're like me. You're dealing with a lot of emotions right now. I have a daughter. I've got 2 kids on the way. This really cuts close to home to me.
Yeah, it's frightening to think about. I mean, look, we're this. You don't have to be. The school that Anaya goes to is one of those that it's a charter school where they have K through 6 in one building, they have 7 through 12 in another building, and they're kind of right next to each other. So you have kids of all ages all around each other, and all it takes is a person like this guy that's 19 years old and he has mental issues, and or a 17-year-old high schooler gets bullied too much and can't deal with it, and maybe his parents don't pay attention to him, or he gets into the wrong stuff and brings a gun and goes into the little kids building, and I could be affected. So that's scary. I feel terrible for those parents that lost their children just going to school, and they're all excited about Valentine's and what they're wearing, what they're doing that day, and all that, and it's just, God. That you have to worry about what your kids are doing in school. It's just, I almost miss the times when the biggest thing you worry about is maybe somebody's going to take your lunch money or something. Mm-hmm. Now it's much bigger.
Yeah, I mean, Columbine changed the situation when we were kids. I think Sandy Hook sort of changed the situation again for this generation, and I mean. Now they're just school shootings rolling out en masse here in the States. It's terrible. It's I don't know how much longer you can really go without saying, "Look, America, we have a problem." And how many times are we going to keep posting thoughts and prayers on Facebook or whatever and not do anything? Like it's almost inexcusable at this point that this stuff is still allowed to happen.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't care what political stance you take. This is tragic, and this is a very important thing that we need to take care of. This is serious. This is something that is, what I heard a guy recently say, an epidemic. And what happens when epidemics take place? Well, they go and throw a bunch of money at it, right? And this is the one thing they don't do that with. This is the one thing they kind of put on the news, and then 2 weeks later, we're on to the next thing. We forgot that it happened. Mm-hmm. And we're not here to talk politics or really talk even social issues, but I think all of us here are just very sad, and we want to make sure that we throw our thoughts, our prayers, our wishes, all of those families affected. It's just a terrible, terrible situation, and I wanted you guys and myself to hopefully get across what we were feeling. And is there anything else you guys wanted to say before we move on to something else?
There's a lot of people out there trying to do some good out of this. If we're sticking to wrestling, and Donovan Jijak has a GoFundMe out there. If you want to contribute, he's raising money for the families that were affected because the NXT does shows in that area where the shooting happened. And he's going to personally give that money to I think an organization out there or something like that. So, if you feel the need and you got some money to sling around, I'm sure some people out there could do some good with it.
Yeah, definitely. Please do that. And, this is a cause that is very important. Many people were affected. And, let's be honest. I mean, this is going to be something that, just came out of the blue for people that may not have the funds to take care of this kind of situation. So please go help. Please be, alongside all these people that really need your support. So. It's hard to move on from such a sad topic. But I mean, I'm just glad to be here with you guys. This is why I love doing the podcast with Sean and Paul. I love these guys. They're my friends, and we have such a great time together and just chatting. I mean, we could sit here and chat all night just about anything. But we love talking wrestling, and this is why we do the podcast. And I'll just say this, sometimes I get a song in my heart, guys, and the song that I had in my heart was really, honestly, because of Rusev. I don't know if you guys watch the Mixed Match Challenge all the time. I do every week. I actually really enjoy it. I know the numbers don't say most people like watching it. I love watching the Mixed Match Challenge, and this week, Rusev and his song, it just really inspired me to really sing my own version of it. And mine, of course, says, "Paul is the best, Sean number one." So there you go.
what is going on here?
I just had to say that because I love you guys. So.
Rusev is a lyrical genius, is what I learned.
We should do W2M Got Talent.
Yeah. I think I just lost. So that's 3 X's I just got. So Harry, Patrick, and of course Glenn probably all gave it to me right now. So, but anyway, guys. Well, I think pretty much leads us into one last thing we're going to really quickly talk about. Paul, you went and saw Black Panther. What are you going to tell the people? Is it good, bad? Are they going to spend their money well?
It is good. I enjoyed it. I think visually it's some of the very best work that Marvel has done in a movie so far. I think the plot, it's fine. It's very typical superhero stuff. So, don't look for them to reinvent the wheel or anything, but I think you go and you pay your money for the visuals and they are super worth it. There's some absolutely breathtaking sights in that movie.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
I know, Sean, you're planning on going and seeing it. I'm planning on seeing it this weekend myself. So I hope it happens. I hope I don't do something else,
Yeah, I think by the time we hit the Monday show, we'll all have seen it and we can have a little bit of a more discussion about the movie itself. But, right now it's fresh. You got everybody raring to go. So by the weekend, I'm sure we'll be hearing all about the sales numbers and everything else.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll be probably talking about it more, like Sean just said, on the Monday, Tuesday morning show. So, all right, guys. Well, why don't we do?
There will be all kinds of people watching it, regardless of what weirdos have to say about them.
Ain't that the truth? Oh boy. So, all right, guys. Well, let's jump into some quick hits.
Let us do that.
It's time for wrestling news. Quick hits.
Take it away, Gary.
Well, guys, something happened that really, honestly, I don't know that I was surprised, but in a way I was. Rich Swann was released by WB. Yeah, that's right. He is no longer employed by them. We had in the past talked about Rich Swann and the allegations, the things that went down with him and the domestic violence situation. But here's the thing. Apparently WB just didn't like bad press, or maybe some other things came up. But yeah, he is no longer in WB. What do you think about this, Paul? I don't know if I was too surprised, but I am.
I think I'm a little surprised more by the timing than anything, right? I feel like it's been a little while since we talked about Rich Swann and Sue Young's incident, and then supposedly how they had patched things up and whatever, or at least have found a way to get to a place where they want to stay together and seek help elsewhere or whatever. So, I'm not surprised that he got released because I think, like you said, I think WWE doesn't want any more bad press, especially with the whole Enzo thing, I think still kind of lingering around them a little. So, just anything you do to get you bad press, you're probably out of the company. I think that's sort of what we're learning very early here in 2018.
Yeah, I think they would have given him a lot more flack if it wasn't for Enzo. I think having two situations come up like that in the news really quickly after another, it is gonna do something for WWE's PR, and they're coming off like great financials and everything else, and I don't think they want anything tarnishing that, especially on the road to WrestleMania when you got the most eyes on you, and you really don't. I think this is like the wrong time to. Anybody can Google Rich Swann right now, and that would probably be one of the first things that comes up, sadly. So. Even if, the charges got dropped and everything else, I think it goes to show that you just got to be careful about what you do, period. And this doesn't even, this goes beyond, WWE. Jobs do not have to give you your job back because your charges got dropped.
Right.
They can decide that we don't want to deal with that. We don't want to deal with the possibility of that happening again, and go, hey, that's it, man. I'm sorry. But there's nothing that says we have to, you have the right to work, but you don't have to work with us.
Right.
And so, I think people just need to be careful of whatever you do, whether it's in your home or out in public or, You just got to control yourself, especially if you're working for something where anything you do, it's going to become news.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're totally right about that. And once again, I mean, I'm sure those guys who wrestled in the 70s and 60s, they look at this, and even in the 80s, they look at this and say, wow, these guys can't get away with anything when we got away with everything. And so, I mean, nowadays, this is a new world. This is a new situation for guys who...
I think Flair said it in that 30 for 30, right? He couldn't
Mm-hmm.
have worked in today's
environment,
society.
Yeah.
It's very true. It's really, really true. Let's be honest. So, I hope some good things do happen for Rich Swann if he is innocent of all this stuff, and he's a great talent. That's the one thing that I think really does make you kind of sad about it, because I think he could have done some big things, at least for the cruiserweight division, if nothing else. And losing him isn't going to break WB, of course. He's not a big enough name, but it's still kind of sad. One of those stories you hate to hear. Who knows? Maybe down the line, Rich Swann could make an appearance back, but for right now, as long as this Enzo Amore thing is over their heads, WWE's not interested.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk about someone that WWE might be interested in. It's going to be funny that I'm going to say this. I can't believe I'm actually saying this. Jeff Jarrett. Why? Well, it's not because they want him to come on for any other reason, but to possibly put him in the Hall of Fame. And this, once again, is a rumor. This is not fact or anything we've heard anybody confirm. But it is, of course, part of the rumor mill, and there have been people trying to kill the rumor, and hey, that's fine, it's whatever. But we're bringing it to you, just food for thought. So let's talk about this a little bit. Let's talk about the things that we consider, good about Jeff Jarrett, maybe some of the things that are bad. But not only that, the fact that this is possibly a situation where he's on a list, and WWE is going through that list, kind of determining, not actually saying that he's going to the Hall of Fame. So let's start with this. I mean, Paul, how worthy do you think Jeff Jarrett is of going to the Hall of Fame? And, could you see it happening?
Boy, I think if you look at Jeff Jarrett big picture, I think he's in. If you look at his WWE work, I don't know. I don't know. Even if you take in WCW into account still, I mean, he was world champion there while they were dying, and it's... A lot of people, I think, have put a bad spin on it, especially since, the relationship, him and Russo are very good friends, which is how a lot of people think he got the belt in the first place and all this other stuff. He's never done a lot for me in the ring either, but I don't think you can really short him on his credentials of what he did outside the WWE, especially when it, founding Impact / TNA / Anthem Presents Wrestling / whatever you want to call it these days. He's done a lot, so...
That never gets old.
Yeah, it doesn't. I would put him in, I think, if you're taking big picture. If you're talking just WWE, I don't know.
I think that's what it is, though. I think you have to... That's the problem with WWE is they're so weird about how they've done inductions recently with some people.
Right.
Like, I get it that you want to induct the NWO at some point, but are people just that naive that they don't know that Razor Ramon is Scott Hall? Like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Are we this stupid now? Are we that living in our own world that we can't just go, okay, here's Scott Hall, he is getting inducted. Here's Kevin Nash, he is getting inducted. Who's the other? Rikishi. He was also these other characters and, whatever. And it's like, Jeff Jarrett is for sure in if you include all his work as a business figure and what he did for, whether you want to mention TNA or not, or, all that, the family he's in, and then also his work in WWE. If you put it all together, I think definitely. If you're including just WWE, WCW, I think you have a bone to pick there. But I mean, again, when the line is so low, anybody that did anything at this point, especially in the Attitude Era, where almost anybody was something, they're gonna get in. And I think regardless of if they have a problem with Jeff Jarrett, he's going to get in at some point just because they're going to need like secondary names to put in.
Yeah, you're right. And, Jeff Jarrett's one of those guys that, like you both mentioned, I mean, he's done a lot in the wrestling business. He's not exactly maybe the best wrestler or doing, anything particularly just the highest level, but he's done a lot. And he's actually made a mark on wrestling, even if it wasn't, maybe to the level of some of the other guys that we would consider Hall of Famers. And I think he's got, a chair to stand on, but how stable is it? I don't know. I'm really kind of curious if WWE's even really all that interested. It wouldn't surprise me if he's on this list, but never really somebody that they're immediately looking to right away. Maybe someone that they may sneak in somewhere. Who knows? But yeah, I just it's really hard. I think Slapnuts definitely deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that too. I mean, he did. I mean, I know Honky Tonk Man was sort of the first, whatever, but I think more than Honky Tonk, he kind of really brought it into. I mean, Elias does it, so I think there might be a lot of people, especially in our generation, that have no idea who Honky Tonk is, but they remember Jeff Jarrett doing it.
Mm-hmm. That's very true, to be honest with you. So, let's see if Jeff Jarrett gets in. I mean, we still got a little time before WrestleMania. I mean, he may appear on our Monday Night Raw TV pretty soon here, just his face, saying he is. But their class is so strong. I don't want them to slow down that momentum. I want them to keep going with some strong names. I'm just being selfish that way.
I mean, and usually the Hall of Fame members aren't stuff that they just. You don't have people just out of the blue. Usually they have some kind of something to them, right? Sometimes they don't get in that year, but they get in pretty close after.
Mm-hmm.
So, if not this year, maybe next.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe. We'll have to see. Well, here's something that's even crazier, guys. Jeff Jarrett going to the Hall of Fame, that's pretty wild. But think about this. Hulk Hogan joining the Bullet Club, well, at least honorarily. That's something that's kind of wild to think about, but it could have happened this last year's New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom. Yeah, they were actually in talks with Hulk Hogan to come to Wrestle Kingdom and become an honorary member of the Bullet Club. Problem is the price tag. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Hulk Hogan, of course, the money man, decided that, he needed a good chunk of change to do this. Let's be frank. It was $750,000 for him to come. So New Japan's like, hey, you don't wrestle? No. And I don't blame him. Mm-hmm. I mean, Sean, do you blame him at all?
No. I mean, they've done well without Hulk Hogan since the 80s. They will be fine without him too. I mean, so yeah, they may be going into some WWE tendencies, and what they do and, who they bring and all that kind of stuff, but they're not that crazy. So, and it's not necessary. They may take from the NWO and DX and all that, but they don't need any original member to make them stand out. The only reason you would need Hulk Hogan is if you hadn't gotten Bullet Club to the point where it is, and you need something to make it go over the top and finally hit with an audience, but that's not the case here.
Yeah, I think for me this is just makes sense, right? Why are you going to pay somebody that much money when really all he's going to do is make an appearance, and Hogan just wants to get his name back out there again? I think that's really all this was for him. If it helped New Japan, then that's whatever by him, but clearly, he's trying to get back into the limelight after all this stuff, and I wouldn't pay him $750,000 to show up anywhere. So,
it's crazy to me that if you want your name in there, take a pay cut. Why would you charge an amount people aren't going to pay?
Ego, brother.
I don't even know that Vince pays that much for him to show up one time.
I highly doubt it. I don't think Vince. I mean, Vince will probably pay him, really nicely, but I don't think Vince will pay him that even. I think he's just taking advantage of the fact that he hasn't been there, and he's probably thinking, "Oh, brother, this is your biggest show. Well, then I'm going to take advantage of you."
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I think Hulk is. And, looking at this, I mean, I get it. New Japan, they had Chris Jericho on that Wrestle Kingdom to had a guy like Hulk Hogan. I mean, they definitely, have some special attractions there. And I don't blame him for wanting him, but I mean, it's just too much to ask. And not only that, there were some thought processes from New Japan's office that you sign Hulk Hogan on, and then Vince calls him, and then he just no shows. He just says, "No, thanks, I'm going with Vince." And so they didn't want that situation. They didn't want the headache, and I don't blame them. So Hulk Hogan,
that's smart.
It is smart, but Hulk Hogan wasn't smart because think about this, guys. He could have went to New Japan, could have been on New Japan's TV. You can cuss, do anything you want. He could have dropped as many slander words he wanted to, said the N word all day, and no one would have known. Except Americans.
God.
So, Hulk Hogan, if you wanted to do that kind of stuff, you missed your opportunity. So moving on past that. Sorry, I just had to say that. Moving on past that. Just imagining him saying terrible things. So moving on, I want to say something about Dolph Ziggler. And actually, I'm going to talk about Michael Elgin before I talk about Dolph Ziggler. Michael Elgin actually signed a 2-year deal in New Japan, and I think, not a bad investment on their part.
Talking about horrible things. It's just you missed that segue, Gary. But,
I know. He's in trouble for his own stuff, man.
Yeah. But New Japan continues to ignore. So, it's a different culture. They may not understand the whole ordeal too. So I think you kind of have to give them the benefit of the doubt a little bit there, but. It's just when you have heads of digital streaming companies getting fired in America because they don't want Michael Elgin on their service, but New Japan's giving the man money, it's weird, but, it's not like he's the one that actually performed any actions. He was just somebody that didn't maybe do the right thing in someone's eyes or whatnot, and that really shouldn't take anyone's right to work away.
This is tough, right? I don't know. Like, I definitely, if he knew something, he definitely should have told somebody. I think that's just sort of bottom line stuff there for me. The only thing, the Japanese audience and a lot of this, I don't know how much of what came out over here about him followed him over there to that audience, right? So I'm wondering if they think that, maybe for the audience they're trying to appeal to, which of course still the Japanese audience, even though their cachet amongst the American audience is great for them right now, that's still who they're trying to draw in as the main target. So I'm wondering if that's sort of where this is coming from. Honestly, if they still think, he's got a lot to offer a company. He's a great worker as far as in-ring stuff goes. So, it's not like they're just signing chump change here, but it's rough, right? You have to.
It would be to have him show up as Strong Style Evolved or something like that, though.
We gonna learn, aren't we, Sean?
Yeah.
I don't know. You can't blame him, right? They're signing somebody who's doing pretty well for him over there as far as a foreign Goshen guy.
Yeah. Plus, he's sort of involved in a storyline, so I don't think they want him to go anywhere just yet.
From their point of view, like I said, not a bad investment. From America's point of view, maybe someone you don't want to be tied up with. And I get it for all the different reasons, but I still feel like, let the guy work. He may have made a mistake, and you know what? Sometimes we have to forgive, maybe not forget sometimes, but sometimes you got to forgive, and then we'll see. I hate to be judgmental. Of course, I wasn't there, things like that, Well, let's talk about someone who definitely made a judgment call, and that's Dolph Ziggler. Of course, we talked about this on our Part 1 episode, Dolph Ziggler re-signing with WWE, even though he was supposedly going to be heading out the door. And why did he stay? Well, it was money. Money talks for sure, and he signed a 2-year deal, apparently, worth $1.5 million. Now, this is, of course, once again, not confirmed. This is something that we're hearing, but that's definitely a good payday. And of course, some of the other perks that Dolph's getting along with this, it feels like it's just about right here.
I tell you what, Gary, I would do a lot of things for a contract for 2 years for $1.5 million. Jobbing out on WWE TV, certainly something I would do.
Yeah. I'm in that boat too.
Yeah, I can't blame the guy. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we all did kind of want to see him move on, go to New Japan, do big things, have these great matches, have a Wrestle Kingdom match that just blows you out of the water. You're like, good God, why did WB not keep this guy? We wanted to see all that happen, but let's be honest. All of us, like you just said, would do a lot of things for that $1.5 million just for 2 years. And I think that's where Dolph's looking too. I think this is also a situation where Dolph really feels like, hey, they're going to pay me this much. I'm going to take it, but I'm also going to prove them that I'm worth even more if they want to pay me even, after that 2-year contract's up. Right. It's just so interesting to me. And it also really interests me too, guys, because I think they like him for some reason, because they treat him so bad, but yet they want to keep him around so bad. It's like having a girlfriend or something like that she gets on your nerves, but when she's about to leave, you're like, no, stay, please. So.
I think Dolph's age probably has something to do with this. He's going to be 38 this year. You don't know how much time you ever have left in the business, but I mean, $1.5 million goes a long way to securing some financial future for you.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, congratulations to Dolph on that for sure. WB also decided to sign somebody else, and this is someone I did not expect in a million years for them to do, but they signed Mahabali Shira. That's right, the ex-Impact star, to a developmental deal. So Paul is going to be so excited when he shows up on NXT television.
Get ready for that Shira shuffle, man. It's happening.
I will say this. If the Performance Center can turn this guy into a decent worker, clearly they have somebody who can perform miracles. Clearly. Because this guy is so bad. I don't know. If they're going to keep signing people I don't like, I might have to stop watching NXT, Gary, and protest.
Oh, God. Oh, boy, yeah. It may, tear my world down, too. But, Sean, I mean, I'm hoping this is for a good reason. I don't even know. I'm just kind of concerned.
Is Jinder going to have his tag team partner now again? Well, it's fine. They've made a point about India is important to them. Sign another guy. I mean, why not? What matters is, I think at this point, Triple H has proven that he can work miracles with almost anyone. So why not do it with Shira too? Maybe they can find a gimmick for him that works, and if we all we end up liking him.
I think part of this too is maybe Triple H has some distractions for Vince, and so when he wants to do something, to sign a guy, he kind of throws another guy in front of Vince. So while he's putting EC3 over, he's going to put Shira out in front of Vince, like, flexing. He's like, yeah, give it to me. Flex more, So.
Oh, God.
Hey, sometimes I'm just to keep EC3 on top, he's got to do something. So we'll see. Me and my projections. But you know what? WB's not the only one signing people. So is Impact Wrestling. Apparently, they are re-signing Eddie Edwards, and a guy that's been pretty loyal to him, a guy that's worked really hard. I think Paul, he's a guy that fits in there.
He's a super talent too. This guy can go with pretty much anybody. So I'm going to say I think he's a pretty important piece of what they got going on. He's a guy with name value for them still, who has done a fair bit for him. He could probably still be a world champion for him someday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean he's been a champ for them, right? Before
I don't think he's been world champion for him yet. I don't think.
Okay. Well, I mean, he's proven that he can be in that division, even though they've tried to have him be in the X division and all that stuff. I think he can work. Just the important thing with him is gotta stay healthy, and that's what matters right now. Is if they're gonna sign you, you got to be on TV, and if he can do that, then he should be good. Yeah, hopefully he's a guy that they use.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys are right about that. And he's one of those guys that I really enjoy just, watching on a normal basis because he's done a lot of good things when it comes to, quality matches and, having some good storylines. So, I just can't remember. I swore he was champ at one time, but
He has. He was champion back in October 2016.
I thought so, but I wasn't sure.
He got murdered by Lashley, which might be why I forgot.
Yeah. That tends to happen.
Yeah.
When Lashley comes to town, a lot of things change. But yeah, so there you go. Eddie Edwards, I think that's a good sign for Impact and not WWE, right? So, well, let's talk about something else that's really interesting. I'm getting Impact and WWE involved together. Why? Well, because they are going to be a little bit involved together. Impact Wrestling is, of course, going to do their best to compete with WWE in one thing. That's right. Impact Wrestling is going to be holding a WrestleCon show, and this will be taking place directly in competition with the WWE Hall of Fame on April 6th. In fact, they're going to air it right at showtime. So as soon as the Hall of Fame starts, so is WrestleCon. And this is going to be interesting. They're going to have as many stars as they can get on. You've even got Valkyrie joining in on this action. I saw Teddy Hart's going to be involved. But anyway, they're also going to put this on their Twitch channel live. So they're trying to scare a little, viewers away from WWE, I think.
Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi, and Best Friends also on this show.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal there. I mean, I think WWE is used to people. This has happened for years now. They're used to people having stuff run against the Hall of Fame. It's the least interesting for wrestling fans, I think, of the three nights. And I don't think it's a big loss to them, especially because you're watching on the network and you don't have to watch it live. You can watch it whenever. And, whereas, and they, whether that thing sells out or not, it's not like you're seeing the entire audience or whatnot. So what matters to them is what TakeOver and WrestleMania do. That thing's just there to honor the wrestlers. And so, I mean, if you talk to certain people, they think they shouldn't even have crowds there.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically become an extra way for WWE to make money that weekend, right? With that and Hall of Fame to it. So, everybody else piling in that weekend has found a way to sort of cut into it just because, you have WWN running their stuff. You have WrestleCon now who's running a bunch of stuff. I mean, we talked about this last year. I think they started running shows on Wednesday that week. And so I don't know if it's going to be any earlier or not this year, but I mean, running shows basically from Wednesday to Wednesday is what happened. So it's crazy just how much wrestling you can watch when WrestleMania comes to town.
Exactly. I mean, trust me, it's a lot of fun. I mean, they always bring the best Mania weekend and the entire week, and so I mean, it's all exciting, and I'm glad. I really am happy for Impact because they have kind of stayed away from the Mania thing, right? They've kind of said, hey, we get it. We take our lumps. We're not WWE. But this time they're like, you know what? Who cares? Let's go get involved in the action. All the other promotions are doing it. Let's do it ourselves. And I got to give them props. I really, really do. Putting themselves out there like that, you got to take risk. And that's what they're kind of doing here. Just, seeing what they can get out of it.
Yeah. I know House of Hardcore's jumping in this WrestleMania weekend for the first time, too.
Oh, wow. So there you go. I mean, Mania weekend, it's overwhelming, man. If you're a wrestling fan, your head almost explodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't say you don't have choice, certainly.
Exactly.
There's so many shows you decide to go to.
Definitely. So if that's the weekend that people wish they can clone themselves.
Been there, bro. Been there.
So, well, Impact's doing some other things going on right now. They have also revealed that they are going to have a new pay-per-view called Redemption. That's right. That'll be taking place April 22nd, and that'll be held in Universal Studios in Orlando. So going back to their old stomping grounds and not doing it in Toronto. Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
What is there to redeem, Gary? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. That's the scary thing. I wish I knew.
Are they redeeming their checks finally?
Oh,
you gotta wait 6 weeks until after the pay-per-view, Sean.
Yeah.
Maybe they're redeeming the ones from the 6 weeks before.
It's payday. Let's put on a pay-per-view, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
No, in all honesty, I mean, Impact
if there's any those crazy TNA fans listening, they're kind of like, "Oh my god, these guys don't ever stop." Like,
we have to make jokes to make it through. Like, me and Gary have to watch this every week, guys. Sometimes it gets rough, and sometimes it's worth it.
Well, Impact makes jokes on themselves. I mean, it's not like you have to really force it. It's their fault.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But in seriousness, I mean, Redemption's new. I mean, it's not. They didn't do Lockdown, which is also interesting.
I don't know if they canned that or if they moved it around or whatever. But it's whatever. I know Lockdown usually did pretty well for them, so maybe this is just Anthem trying to put their stamp on something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so. So let's see how it works out. It'll be interesting for sure. Well, let's also talk about some other things coming up here in the world of wrestling. We are going to talk about not just Redemptions taking place, but we're also going to be talking about some other things going on here. And this is sad. This is something that I really, hate telling people, especially at the end of the quick hits. But we have Paul. You have to correct me or Sean. Lufisto, is that how you say it?
Lufisto,
yes. It just was recently revealed that Lufisto has been diagnosed with cervical cancer, and that's really, really sad. And I hate to hear that.
Yeah, this is rough. She's had a terrible go when it comes to her health. Not only recently, but just long term. Not only with the style she used to do deathmatch wrestling for CZW, so she got nicked up there. But she's had heart problems, and now this. And my heart. But she's so talented. She's so great at wrestling, and this really sucks. She's still going to be finishing her dates that she has. She has to have surgery, but I don't think she exactly said when or where that's happening. So she did ask for patience, though, in her post because she's dealing with a lot. So,
man, that's so sad.
That's awful to hear.
It really, really is. So our prayers and wishes are out to her for sure in this tough time. So. Well, guys, that pretty much wraps up Quick Hits. We had a lot of interesting ones, but now we are going to move on, and we are actually going to talk more Impact. That's right. We're going to talk our TV taping from this week. We'll do that now.
Boy, oh boy, Gary, did they give us a lot of wrestling this week, which is nice because it means we didn't have to sit through hours of angles, which is pretty nice. So, because that's usually what Impact is.
Yeah, for the most part.
They opened this week though. Sami Callihan taking on Lashley, and this was sort of fallout from last week whenever OVE, Jesus, if I can talk correctly, jumped Lashley in the parking lot and stuck him in the trunk of a car randomly. This goes to DQ finish after you had the rest of OVE run in to save Sami from basically getting murdered by Lashley after he pissed him off by some with some running boots that just basically did nothing to him. This was fine. I didn't. I'm not going to say this put me over the moon or anything, but it's not like this was the worst wrestling I had seen this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, they're trying to get this storyline over, and they're doing it by, of course, showing that Bobby Lashley is still, walking Armageddon, still tough, and they really proved that here because Sami Callihan couldn't get over the fact that, no matter how many of those running boots couldn't go down. But they used everything else under the sun to try to keep him distracted to, of course, finally DQing this match. And I think it's okay. I don't have, anything terrible to say about it. I think this is fine. It wasn't overly inspiring, though, Paul, and this is still a short storyline, so I'm not exactly on fire for it, right? Mm-hmm. It's so fresh, and it feels like they're kind of hit the fast forward button. Like, this should have been, like, down the line, but they went ahead and did it now. So, but the one thing that I did kind of pop for was that spit take that they did, where that just every time I see that just is so disgusting. I just that's the one thing I'm like, oh.
You have OVE do a beatdown on Lashley before Eddie Edwards comes in to make the save to clear out the ring and such. So, looks like we might have a tag team or a handicap match in our future. But I'm with you. We kind of know how this story ends, right? We know Lashley is not with the company anymore. I'm assuming that's why they fast forward, is they have to get through everything they can to make sure this at least plays out some way well for OVE by the end. Mm-hmm. We move on to Eli Drake talking about his title match tonight with Austin Aries. He believes he's still the real world champion since he keeps calling the Aries match a fluke. We get a Cage high package. He's debuting tonight, which I'm super excited for. It's the main reason why I wanted to watch this episode. LAX hanging out in the clubhouse, running down the Cult of Lee. They keep talking about expanding business operations, whatever that means when you're a pseudo gang, I guess, for lack of a better term. Anything you want to jump on here before we move on?
The LAX stuff, but that was almost unnecessary.
Yeah.
I mean, very honest. That was really, it's like Conan mentioned something about wrestling instead of the drugs and whatever else you're doing. Anyway, so that was kind of needless. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. We get a flashback of Laurel Van Ness's failed marriage to Braxton Sutter, and then, of course, how Allie and Sutter became a couple and all that, since they're currently feuding and all that. Allie ends up showing up at the building after this, and she hears some spooky noises, and we know she's supposed to meet her secret admirer later on, or at least sometime tonight. Let's go ahead and fast forward to that, because I actually kind of got a little chuckle out of this. She gets like this big heart-shaped box of candies, and Laurel Van Ness jumps in and scares her, and Allie ends up attacking her and stuffing her back in the box, because that's where Laurel was hiding. I don't know why I found this funny, Gary, but I chuckled pretty hard.
It was kind of funny. I'm not going to lie. It was funny. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of weird in a way too, though. I don't know. There wasn't a lot said here. So this reveal didn't just do a lot for me or anything. And they already kind of gave you a lot of the information, the recap stuff. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it was okay. And, I'm not going to hate on it too much. I get what they're trying to do, but I don't know. It was more funny than it was anything serious I took out of it.
Right. Moose ends up getting interviewed a little while later. Before he can really say anything, though, Patron attacks him and blames Moose for costing him his number one contendership in the Fatal 4-Way last week. And then we get Hanaya taking on Rosemary here. About 4 minutes, Rosemary ends up getting the win. And in the post-match, you have Hanaya do a attack on Rosemary. They end up brawling around before Rosemary starts biting her, and this freaks Hanaya out, and she runs off.
Yeah, I think we know the end of that story too, don't we, Paul?
Yeah, we sure do, buddy.
I get it, what they're doing with that, and, I like the fact that Rosemary kind of got some retribution, right? Because they had Hanaya beat Rosemary down pretty well, but I do want to say that I'm trying to think of the guy's name now. The guy on 205 Live, the last name with a T, the little Japanese wrestler.
Akira Tozawa.
I sorry, just blanked on me. I just wish this would have been a part of the show where Akira Tozawa comes out and goes, "You're fired."
Oh. Tozawa's Vincent K. McMahon impression is just the absolute greatest thing on 205 Live. Even better than the insane amount of great wrestling we've had.
Yeah, so that would have been perfect. I would have popped like no other. But anyway, that's not what happened here. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm glad for Rosemary, and I don't know what they're going to do with Hanai. I don't know if she's on any more tapings or not. I have no idea. But I kind of like this with Rosemary. And I also want to throw a big shout out to Patron. I never thought in a million years I'd say this, but thank you for doing that, Patron. That segment went a lot better with the attack.
Yeah, Moose still hadn't really gotten the promo stuff down yet, has he? It's,
still working.
Still rough. EC3 finds out that his partner tonight is going to be the returning Tyrus for his tag team match against Matt Sydal and Johnny Impact. And this tag match is very meh, if you ask me. I don't know. EC3 ends up putting his feet up on the ropes to get the cheap win on Jesus, I think it's Sydal, to keep that feud going, essentially. But, I mean, there's nothing really here, I think, to really just write home about. It's just holdover stuff.
It really is, and this is just thrown at you. These are the matches that are really hard to care about because they're just thrown at you. And I okay, I'm not trying to belittle anybody, but I'm just going to be very honest. If I go to a local indie show, that's fine because a lot of these guys have to do that to keep going week to week. This is a show where, there could be storylines and all that in TV taping, and I'm just like, you just threw this at me, and I'm supposed to care. And I just don't. Even EC3 winning doesn't do a lot for me because I know the end of his story. So.
Exactly. It just, getting past these tapings, it might be a bit of a chore, Gary, just because we do know so many people have left Impact now. It's kind of hard to get invested in some of the stuff they're doing.
Yeah. But hey, I was glad to see Tyrus. I'll just say that. It was nice to see him back in action.
Yeah, I mean, if they actually decide to do something with him this time around, I might get excited. Until then, it's just, well, here's Tyrus again.
Yeah.
We cut to Jimmy Jacobs and Congo Kong invading Park and Park as we continue to gear up for their Monsters Ball match. Kong ends up destroying Joseph Park's office, and Jimmy is very pleased by this. This is kind of a nothing segment, if you ask me. What isn't a nothing segment is Cage absolutely murdering this poor John Cruz guy. Oh, my goodness, Gary. Multiple power bombs, a big buckle bomb, a lariat, Steiner screwdriver. Somebody break out the headstone for John Cruz, because he ain't wrestling no more. He's dead.
Yeah, he's gone. At first, I thought I was watching Lucha Underground.
Yeah.
So, glad to see it back, and then I realized that no, it's not cold enough in that.
Exactly, it's not blue enough.
So, nope, not at all. So, but no, I'm right there with you, Brian Cage. It's great to see him, back in action and doing, this, killing people. So happy to see it, and I had no problem with it. It is what it is, and I've got to say also that the previous segment you talked about. Good God, why do I still care about Abyss coming back? I don't. I'm just sorry. Please, it's just the silliest thing. I'm sorry. I have no interest in that whole thing, and I don't care if the Princess Jimmy Jacobs tells me I'm supposed to. I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, you take one of the most interesting people in the world in Jimmy Jacobs and stick him with somebody as boring as Congo Kong, and here's what you get, guys. Here's what you get.
Yep.
Colt Lee spent some time looking around backstage for LAX. They don't find him. They find some of the Indian guys, a part of the Mumbai Cats or whatever the name of that stable is. I forget, but they beat up them, so probably setting up something for next week. X Division title match is up after that. Ishimori defends against Fantasma. I dug this. I thought this was great. Lots of fast-paced action. A little north of 13 minutes. Ishimori ends up putting him away with the 450. This is good stuff. I would definitely go track this down.
Yeah, I agree. It's an exciting match. Ishimori, though, let's be honest, Paul. This guy just never fails at
spectacular.
He's having great matches every time he gets in the ring. So if you just mention his name, I'm going to be like, yeah, I care. I want to watch it. So, yeah, good stuff. I'm really happy.
There's a large part of me that hopes that Ishimori's run here has gotten more eyes on Noah. Those guys have been doing some great work over there, so fingers crossed for those guys. Moving on, though, main event time, world title on the line, Austin Aries, and all of his championship belts. He's got like 12 of them. I'm kidding. I think it's more like 5 or 6, but he's got a bunch. Taking on Eli Drake here. Aries ends up retaining. You have some Chris Adonis interference that does not go well for anybody, and Aries ends up hitting the Brainbuster. 1, 2, 3. He's still your man.
Yeah, this is a pretty fun match to watch. I think they did a pretty good job of really selling, that Austin Aries is, in control of his faculties, despite the fact that you have Adonis trying to screw him over. So I think that's a good deal. And then, of course, Eli Drake is Eli Drake, and they may not have the perfect chemistry, but I still feel like they did a pretty good job, and they really put across the fact that both of these guys want that Impact Championship belt. That's what I got out of this most of all, and they were willing to push it to the limit, and they did. And I felt like, Austin Aries getting the victory here was the right way to go, but still feel like Eli Drake was right there with him the whole time, and that made me happy.
Right. I think that's what I appreciated most about this match was Drake sort of getting a chance to look like he could hang with Aries, especially after getting basically supremely dealt with very quickly in the fashion that he did to end his title run. Giving him this at least feels like you're trying to salvage something for this guy, and I do appreciate that, especially for how much work they tried to put into making it matter. It's nice to see this.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I really couldn't.
That does it for Impact this week. And not a bad episode. I think your last 2 matches, absolutely worth go tracking down. Maybe not worth the rest of the show, though.
Yeah, exactly. And hey, if that's all you have to watch, that's going to get you at least in a good mood, because those 2 matches are a lot of fun. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is our Impact. And of course, now we have one last thing to do, and that is crown a Superstar of the Week. We're going to do that next.
Superstar of the Week.
Let's jump into it, Gary.
Alrighty, guys. Well, we are going to crown the Superstar of the Week, but we got to first give a point off to someone who I think we just talked about, Mr. Austin Aries.
That's the successful title defense is worth 1 point. But Aries, he's got like 12 championship belts, so I'm sure there's a lot to console him there.
Yeah. Oh, man. The man of many. Well, we got to give 2 points out, and that guy that we're going to give it to is Drew Gulak.
How great has 205 been these last week? Drew Gulak turning the corner, going from Mr. PowerPoint to Mr. I'm going to stretch you until you can't stretch no more. His match with Tony Nese this week was awesome. Go watch 205 live, people. It's awesome. Do it.
Yeah, you have to. And the reason is because, there's on this card that we were very, very close to putting up here in the rankings. And it just got edged out, man. But it's just so much fun to watch now. And heck, every time I'm watching 205 Live now, I've got my shirt halfway off just because of the excitement. So trust me, it's worth your time. So
hashtag shirt half off.
Yeah, there you go. Shirt half off. Crop top. Anyway, someone else that gets me really excited and who's going to get 3 points this week is Pete Dunne.
Oh, boy. Pete Dunne, Roderick Strong. Great match on NXT this week for the UK title, as per usual when Pete Dunne is in town defending that belt. Hats off to him. Hats off to Roddy. Great match. Great match.
Oh, definitely. Another one you got to go check out if you have not had a chance to see it. So, we're going to give 4 points to a guy that's no stranger to our high point system, Okada.
This guy just continues to be amazing at everything he does. Entering a ring, making money fall down from the top of a building, wrestling somebody for the IWGP Heavyweight title. It's just like breathing for him now. Just like getting points on our board here. He gets 4. Great match with Sonata at New Beginning in Osaka. Definitely go check that out.
Yep, I agree. So there you go. All right, we're going to give 5 points, and the guy that is crowned our Superstar of the Week, Will Ospreay.
Who would have thought a feud about being called a cat would end up with somebody getting 5 points, Gary? Not this guy. not this guy. But Ospreay and Hiromu did it. Wonderful, man. I mean, these guys might have sent themselves to a bit of an early grave with how hard they were bumping in that match, but Jesus, was it worth it? Like, it's just a great match. Go check it out. Will Ospreay, Hiromu Takahashi, crushing it, just like they always do.
Oh yeah, definitely. And Will Ospreay, I'm sure this year will be on many, many more times. So he is a rising star. He's already got a big name, but I mean, I think he just keeps getting better and better. Mm-hmm. It's just amazing. So, well, there you go, guys. Congratulations to Will Ospreay. Oh, and I know we're not used to plugging it. I don't really need to plug this show, but I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there. Ospreay did a interview with Chris Jericho this past week, so it's really interesting to listen to because he's talking more about himself, but he's also talking about his girlfriend, who's also in the wrestling business, and just kind of fun listen. So go check that out if you haven't heard that already.
Plus, you can tell or listen to him tell the story of how he told WWE to basically go screw themselves.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I'm doing pretty good. I don't even have to, travel like you guys travel. I get Christmas off.
Yeah.
So, I love it. I really, really do. So, well, there you go, guys. That is, of course, our Superstar of the Week segment. And now we are done for the night. I know it's sad. It seems like we flew through the show, but we have so much fun doing it, and we hope you've enjoyed listening to it. Well, next week we'll be back with 2 other great episodes for you guys to check out when I'll be doing part 1 and part 2 of episode 287. Yeah, that's right. And of course, we got all the great review shows that we do: Raw, SmackDown Live, 205 Live, and of course NXT. The way you go check all those shows out and all the other great shows that are on the W2M network is to go to W2Mnet.com. Yeah, go there. That's how you can go find all those great wrestling shows, and trust me, a lot more if you're into other things. And also, don't forget to go subscribe, rate, and review over at Wrestling at the Max or to the W2M network. Once you do that, you get basically everything we do in one nice package. And also, you get a chance to give your feedback, and we get a little love from you from the star system. And once again, I make sure that every week to do this because they are so important to us. Formula1Mania.com and LastWordOnProWrestling.com. They are our partners in crime. They've got a lot of great stuff out there for you guys to check out. So please go support them as well. Well, we are done. Like I said, we've had such a great show. I love doing this show every week, and I can't wait to get back on with these guys. Until then, though, for myself, for Sean Garmer, and Mr. Paul Leazar, if you're not living life to the max,
not living life at all.
You know it.
Peace.
The previous podcast is a W2Mnet.com original podcast. For more great content like this, go to W2Mnet.com for the worlds of wrestling, video games, entertainment, and sports.